How would you pay for an emergency? Your car breaks down, you find yourself in the emergency room, or you lose your job and you need to pay for rent and food with no income coming in. For many of us, the answer is a credit card, a personal loan, or even assistance from our family members, transitioning what should be our burden to carry to our loved ones. As we have traditionally left the important task of teaching our kids about money up to the parents, the average American does not know how to handle their finances. The solution is to require schools to teach kids basic financial skills as a part of their curriculum. My parents are no strangers to navigating through rough money times. My mom grew up quite poor, literally fitting the stereotype of shooting whatever ran across the backyard that night if you wanted dinner. Roadkill surprise was a household staple for her growing up. My dad was in a bit of a different financial situation. His parents had good jobs and a reasonable income. But with 6 siblings and parents who were frequently fostering other children, it was not uncommon for those paychecks to be providing for 10 to 11 mouths. Because of their respective backgrounds, my parents grew up with a very healthy respect for money, a respect that they instilled in me from an early age. I have been very blessed to never know financial insecurity, and I believe it is all of our responsibility to not only to steward our own money carefully, but to ensure to prepare our kids with confidence in their money handling habits. As I speak with you today, I hope to demonstrate the importance of financial skills, why so many of us don't have those skills, and the best way to ensure that the next generation is the most financially stable and economically confident one in decades. Now that I've discussed my topic, let me begin by highlighting the gravity of our current financial situation. Americans, by and large, do not know how to handle their finances. As U.S. News reports, roughly 66% of Americans would have trouble scraping together just $1,000 in case of an emergency. An emergency fund is a commonly taught principle in financial circles. Without one, families could face eviction or be unable to make necessary home or car repairs. And these issues have further-reaching effects than simply devastating a family. Evictions hurt landlords, and workers without reliable transportation are unreliable workers. In the same article, author Susanna Snyder points out that 77 million Americans, or 35% of adults, have debt and collections reported in their credit files. And no wonder. As USA Today reports, the average American household carries a debt of $137,063 in debt. Sun also tells us that the average American household income is just under $60,000. This means that the average American is carrying behind them a debt that would take them over 2 years to tackle if they spent their income on nothing but paying collectors. According to CNBC, nearly half of American adults have no savings for their retirement whatsoever. And just having savings is not an indicator that you're prepared to retire. The article also tells us that 35% of adults have only a few $100s in savings, which leaves us with a measly 15% of adults who have more than $10,000 to live off when they retire. This creates a portion of the population that is too old to work and too poor to maintain their standards of living, a senior population that strains the already struggling Social Security and other government programs. Now that we've seen the startling reality of the average American's finances, let's take a look at why most don't know how to handle their money. The government does not require that schools teach kids about money, which leaves the important task of developing financial literacy up to the parents. If parents teach their kids anything about money, they might be teaching bad habits. It would be ideal that parents teach their kids about money early and often, but the reality is, even if they do, if the parents themselves are uneducated in the subject of money, all they will do is pass down poor habits and ideas to their children. If the statistics I listed earlier were not enough to convince you that our population does not demonstrate financial literacy, Ryan Lynch from Debt.com points out that just over 50% of parents believe that factors such as your savings, checks, and debit cards play an important role in your credit score, when the reality is none of these things influence your FICO score at all. There's another common adage in the financial community that poor parents teach their kids to be poor, middle class teach their kids to be middle class, and the rich teach their kids to be rich. This seems like common sense, yet we're still leaving these lessons in the hands of parents. Parents unprepared for retirement. Parents who are not prepared for financial emergencies. Parents who are drowning in unprecedented levels of debt. Now that we've seen the cause of the average American's financial problem, we can look to the solution. Require schools to include basic financial skills as a part of their curriculum. Some schools already require that students take credit in financial literacy as a graduation requirement. Recently, news giant The New York Times evaluated a report from Champlin's College Center for Financial Literacy. The report, titled the 2017 Financial Report Card, cites studies that find that school programs that are designed and implemented well are helpful in educating young adults to be financially literate when they enter the workforce. After evaluating each state, the report awarded an A grade to only 5 states, with the majority of states earning a C or lower. The article also cites a report conducted by the FINRA Education Investor Foundation that states that if a rigorous financial education program is carefully implemented, it can lower the probability of delinquency in young adults. Yet nationwide, we still do not mandate that our schools teach our kids about money. I say we demand it. Legislation has already been proposed in this area. When I polled my COM 101 class, not only did I find that 100% of them did not believe that high school students are adequately prepared to handle their finances, I also learned that most were strongly in favor of supporting legislation that would require schools to teach students about money. And luckily for all of us, this is not uncharted territory. Earlier this year, Chad Hedrick of WSAZ, a local Kentucky news source, reported that a bill passed in the Kentucky House with bipartisan support that would require students educated in public high schools to earn financial literacy credit as a graduation requirement. The bill's sponsor, Representative Jim Duplessis, has identified the same looming problem that I've outlined here today. The senator believes that if we want to fix financial literacy, we must get away from the notion that it is a privilege to know how money works. The bill is currently in the Kentucky Senate, and if passed, will begin requiring these courses in the 2020 to 2021 school year. While this is certainly progress, more efforts are needed in order to make sure that these programs reach more of our students quicker. In conclusion, we are facing a more and more financially illiterate society. Americans are being swallowed up by their debt, devastated by financial emergencies, and are living above their means at a manner unsustainable and not conducive for their retirement. Traditionally, we have left the financial education of our kids in the hands of parents who are in need of a crash course in basic money handling skills themselves. We have a solution within our grasp, and the time is now to take action. The problem of financial literacy affects us all, regardless of your personal economic status. Defaulted loans, foreclosures, and a dependent senior community don't just devastate the individuals and families losing their homes and sinking their credit. This weakens our economy and makes us more susceptible to the events like the recession of 2008. Let's teach our kids the most important lessons about money that we never learned. Let's create a generation that's reliant on themselves instead of others. Thank you.